All right, let's get started. So again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. For the folks who are joining us today, thank you for taking the time to join. We're going to be talking about software delivery optimization, new solution with Sumo Logic. And again, I'll go through probably 5 slides, and then we'll get right into the demo. So again, when you look at software development and delivery, there's really 4 big overarching challenges associated with it, right? One is just security, right? Making sure that the code, the pipelines, leading all the way up into the different components and the applications that you're building and deploying are actually secure. The last thing you want to do is deploy an application into production, or even code into production that has holes in it that can cause security concerns and issues down the road for users. That leads us to quality, right? So, when you're building software and you're building it quickly these days, there's a certain level of quality that users expect. So you want to be able to maintain that quality or even improve on that quality over time. And then, instituting certain testing at certain points within that, the entire process is just best practices, right? Making sure that you're maintaining certain points and elements of quality throughout the code, throughout the pipelines, and then throughout the application when it's deployed, so that at least you're getting a good quality piece out there for folks to be using, and which you can then iterate and improve on over time. The problem is with quality, there's a tug of war between quality and velocity. You want to get things out quickly. Users today especially are constantly expecting improvements, new features, new functionality, new capability in your applications, and in particular, obviously, bug fixes, right, to be done very quickly. So there's always a tug of war between quality and velocity, but there's a balance that you can achieve there. But when you look at velocity, there are certain things you can do, looking at your process, looking at places where you can automate that may be manual today, and then how do you continuously optimize the process so that you're moving quickly, but maintaining or improving your quality over time. And then lastly, just collaboration in general. Today, especially, you've got teams working all over the world. They are working on different parts of an application and different components. They may be doing things a little differently. So having that collaboration between the teams, making sure that they're working closely to ensure that you're delivering the best possible software out there at a pace that keeps users happy and is secure is the goal, right? But it's really hard today. I mean, again, just given how software delivery and development delivery work today, those are really, to me, the 4 biggest issues or challenges facing organizations today. But we also know that there are organizations and dev teams out there that do well, really well, at delivering software. And if you look at the 4 key metrics called DORA out there that really do measure an organization's ability to develop and deploy software, they break it down into 4 key areas, right? Really, and those 4 key areas are broken into 2 halves, one on the velocity side and one on the quality side. So elite performers, based on the last DevOps assessment report, when you look at just deployment frequency, they're actually deploying 973 times more than low performing teams and organizations. Their lead time is also 6,500 times faster, which is an astounding number. I didn't think I'd ever see it this high over the last 6 years that they were doing this research. But 6,500 times faster than the low performing teams, while they're actually recovering 6,500 times faster from any incidents. And then their changes are actually really lower, 3 times lower than lower performing teams. The point here is, these 4 key metrics really are the foundation, the cornerstone of understanding how your software delivery process is and how it's working, and if you're improving over time. And what I want to say here too is, don't strive for these numbers. Just start by finding these 4 numbers. Understand what your deployment frequency is, what your lead time is, what your change failure rate is, and then what your mean time to recover is. And use that as a foundation to start from, and then improve from there. And come up with your own guide or goal as to what would be high performing or elite for your particular team and your particular organization, because it's going to be different for each of you. But the thought here is just start here, get these 4 metrics, understand what they mean to your organization, to your team, and then get that visibility into how you can improve on those numbers if you need to. And when you look at software development, we know it's complicated, right? And it's really fragmented. You've got different stages of software development and delivery. You've got different folks doing different tasks in that process. The problem is that it's also fraught with a lot of different tools that a lot of these different teams are using. And those tools have their own sets of data. They tend to be siloed, and that makes it really hard to get that visibility into what's happening. So that second level of set of challenges inherent in just software development delivery from a team perspective is the fact that we know that different teams, even working on the same components or different components of a similar application, they're doing things slightly different. The tool chain itself is, again, fraught with silos, making it really hard for teams to collaborate and understand which team is doing what, when, what's the process, when will those PRs get merged, and then when is it time for my team to take over. So collaboration is really hard because you don't have that visibility into the DevOps lifecycle, right? And I know I've talked to companies who've tried to develop a tool that brings all this data together, presents those metrics, and gives them some idea of how they're doing from a visibility and insights perspective. But it's really hard. It's super hard because not only do you have to get all the data, but then you got to find the right data, then you have to get it correlated, then you have to normalize it, and you have to democratize it, and then you got to maintain it and manage it over time. So what happens when you add a new tool into that process? Everything breaks, and you have to go back and kind of rejigger everything else so that solution, that visibility solution actually works for you again. But luckily here at Sumo Logic, we've done that work for you, right? So our software development optimization solution actually provides that platform. It brings in all the data and the signals from the different tools in your software development and delivery process. It normalizes it, it correlates it, and it presents it in metrics and analytics and insights that you can then use, right? So that you can understand how you're doing from a release velocity today and what you need to do to improve to get faster. What's your reliability thresholds today and your security thresholds? And do they meet the needs of the company and your users? And where can you improve in those? But also the fact that now this data is normalized and democratized across the entire process. All the teams together have access to that information, and they can work together for the greater good and towards the common goal. So let me get into the demo. And just before I get into it, I just want to note to people, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A section in Zoom. So let's get to the demo. So I'm going to start here with the door metrics overview. So what we do here is, again, by bringing in data from Jira, Jenkins, Bitbucket, GitHub, GitLab, et cetera, all those PagerDuty, all the tools that are being used by your dev team, we're actually able to correlate it, normalize it, and present it into these metrics that you see here from a high-level door perspective, from a deployment frequency, mean time for changes, mean time to change failure rate, and time to restore, mean time to restore. So here you'll see over a 14-day period, we've had 813 deploys, and you can see the high threshold and low threshold, but also the average over time. You can actually change this time if you wanted to up to 30 days or 60 days. Your lead time for changes here at Sumo, and again, this is a demo environment for Sumo, but we're averaging about 55 hours right now. It's been going up over time, so I think if I was a product manager or even engineering manager, I'd probably want to dig into why that's happening. But our change failure rate is pretty good. It's under 10%. And again, you can see the high points and the low points. It seems to have crept up maybe a little bit over the last couple days. So maybe that's something I would want to look into. But our time to restore remains at under 30 minutes, which is great. But again, you can see some spikes here that may warrant just looking at what happened and why. Now, the door metrics are great. Again, these are foundational numbers. They help you get a basic understanding of how your teams are doing from a software development delivery perspective. But folks who we've talked to have said, hey, that's great, but I want a deeper look into our pipelines. And so when you look at the pipeline overview, this takes you one notch deeper into your actual CI pipelines. So from the top left here, you can see just the different executions that have happened in the pipelines. You can also start seeing what are the top 10 services that have had alerts. And then you can also see what were those last 10 critical alerts. Again, and this is over a 24-hour period. You could extend that and change that time period. And if you needed to, you could go right into your PagerDuty issue and get more detail if you wanted to. From a deploy perspective, you can see success versus failed deploys. And what were the last 10 failed deploys? And you could actually go right into the PR to see that if you wanted to and get more detail. From a build perspective, again, same thing. You can see what happened to your builds over the last 24 hours. What was successful, what was aborted, what was unstable, and then what failed. You can also look at the last 10 failed builds, and again, go into the build itself and get more detail into why. And then pull requests. You can see how many pull requests were merged versus created, and the time to close. And you can set thresholds as to if I want a PR to close within 48 hours or 72 hours, great. Anything over 48 hours, tell me why, or flag it here, and I can go take a look. So again, you've got your pipelines, your builds, your PRs, and then your issues. Again, very, very detailed information here. And then this is the overview. So basically, from an issue perspective, you can see of all the issues that are in either Jira or whatever ticket system you're using, you can see which ones were done, which ones were completed, and which ones are still to do. You can, if you got any critical issues, you can dig into it by clicking here. And then you can see your issue trend, right? What's done, what's complete, what's to do. And then also just which ones took the longest to close. And you can click in and find out why. Any questions? No questions yet. Okay. Very good. All right. So that's the overview from a pipeline perspective and the door metrics. We're gonna go right into doing a little deeper dive in the door metrics first. So on the chain, I'm gonna do this one. Great. So from a deployment frequency first, you can actually get a one-click down into your deployment frequency. So you can see the average deploys per week. You can see the deploys by repository. You can see the deploys over time and the success versus failed. Again, here's a spike on the 10th. You might, I don't know if it's something that's interesting, you might want to dig into it. And then you can compare the different deploys versus success versus failed. And then if you wanted to, you could actually start filtering on the status, environment name, or service or team. So actually get to the service level or the team level to really dig into any metric that might be interesting to you to get more detail on. From a lead time perspective, again, one click down from the overview, you'll see, again, our average is 50, whoops, sorry. Let's let to finish this, is 252 hours, right? Our average lead time is 53 hours, which, you know, based on our definition of what is low, medium, high, or elite, you know, we put ourselves in the high column there. From a medium lead time, 23 hours, which is elite for us, and then a maximum, which is 11,000 hours, which is, I guess, just really bad and low. But again, more detail here just on the average, min, max, medium, right, of the time by service. You can also do lead time by team. So now you can compare teams and how the performance of the different teams are doing. Are there areas where one or two teams may be doing really well, or a team may not be doing so great? Might want to dig into that. Is there some new, you know, maybe some new developers came on, they're just kind of getting up to speed? Was there a couple holidays? You know, just things like that that you might want to dig into, or let you at least give you the visibility so that you can take action if you want to. We'll go to change failure rate next. And then again, you can look at, you know, change failure rate is about 9%, right, of changes that get deployed end up breaking. And again, you can isolate that by service, by team, or by environment. And you can find the top services that had a P1 incident, again, based on what your definition is for a P1 incident. And then the top 5 alerting services, right, over a week. And then the average trending over time for 14 days. And again, 14 days here, you can change it to whatever day you want, up to, I think, 60 days. And then lastly, time to restore. One click down. Again, for us, it's just over 30 minutes. And that's good for us. That's why it's green. And we can see it trending down over time. Again, seeing our top services with those P1 incidents. And then what are those incidents by name? And you can actually, if you wanted to, you can filter these out just by clicking on the service name here. Let's see. Okay, no questions. All right, so let's do a deeper dive into the pipeline. So let's get into the alerts. So here you can see alerts by priority, right? So we had 183 alerts that were low, but we had 10 that were high, right? And again, this is in the last 24-hour period. You can see the alerts by service again, and by team, which is really interesting, right? App dev versus the platform versus the DevOps versus the analytics versus the end. And then you can also see the high priority alerts, the date, the service that it occurred, the team responsible, and then get into the PR or the PagerDuty issue. And then you can also see what was created versus closed. So the orange is created and the green are the alerts that were closed and when. One click down, detail into the builds. Again, more visibility so you can have a complete understanding of what's happening in your software delivery, development delivery process, where things can be improved, where things are going well, right? So we had over 24-hour period, we had 10,000 builds. We see that 4,500 of those, 4,600 of those failed versus were aborted, unstable, and 1,700 that were successful. We can see the builds by service and by team. So who had more builds than others, why, How long did they take? We can see the failures versus the successes. Again, we know that we had almost 5,000 fails versus success. We can see the last 10 failed builds, the repo name, the service, and the team responsible, and how many, as well as the successful builds. Again, the date, the build, the repo, the service, the team, and the count. Again, these are things that help you identify pockets of improvement to make sure that your software development and delivery process remains strong. You're meeting those velocity metrics, you're meeting those quality requirements, and you're getting good quality software out the door quickly to your customers. And then on the deployments, again, over the last 24 hours, we've had 383 deploys. We've had 169 successful versus 214 that failed. You can see the deploys by environment, the comparisons. You can also see the deployment by repos. So what repos had those deploys, what service, and how many, and team. What was successful, which ones failed. So here you can see 194 deployments for the payment failed. This is something that I would definitely look into, and then find out who and why. You can see the last 10 deployment summary, files committed, the services associated with those files, the team responsible, and the repo name. And then again, the success versus failed. And again, you can see high points here. I probably wouldn't worry about this one, but this one I probably would have dug into back on the 10th. And then we'll next move into issues. And again, right, issues, tickets that the team is working on. And again, this is for the last 24 hours. You can change the date if you need to. You can also filter by the issue status, the type, the priority, project name, or the service. But you can see how many were, again, closed, created, and then reopened. With 7,700 over the last 24 hours, I think that would concern me. I would need to find out why so many were reopened and why. And then from the issue status, again, what was done, which one was completed, and which are still to be done. And the type, are they tasks? Yeah, great. Service requests or bug fixes, right? And I want to make sure the bug fixes, if they're big, you'd want to make sure that they're priority. So issues by priority, medium, major, and then highest, which should be the bugs. And then by project. The top 10 issues that took the longest to close is interesting, right? Again, they look like a lot of help desk. And so, you know, there's a couple here that you may want to dig into if it took that long. If the bugs were big, if the issues took a while to troubleshoot, to remediate what was going on there. And then pipeline monitoring, the stage monitoring. This really just gives you an idea of different stages in the pipeline and what's happening, right? The master deploy versus the master build and test. And the stage execution count, right? So build test units versus prod deploy, et cetera. And then failed stages and why, and what happened. And the 20 slowest pipeline stages by seconds in pipeline runs. Interesting things here just to look at. Your pipeline summary, and then the last 10 failed stages could be interesting, right? You might want to find anomalies that are happening that are causing stages to fail. And if they fail repeatedly, that's something you need to look into. And then lastly, our SDO, our PR deep dive or deeper dive. And again, for the last 24 hours, you can filter by status or repo name. You can see what's merged versus what was created, which you've seen in the overview. The top 10 services by PR and target branch. Nope, no data. We'll talk to someone about that. And then when you look at pull request created, merge versus declined. So pretty low here, which is great. If it was higher, I probably want to dig into it. And that's SDO right now, or software development optimization. Are there any questions? I don't see any questions in the Q&A. We have 2 minutes, so I will stay here. Oh, is your CI/CD metric based on collection data source? Or do you have metrics for each? It's based on, so the question is your CI/CD metrics based on collection data source, or do you have metrics for each CI/CD tool? They are based on the data that's collected from a particular CI/CD tool. So whatever CI/CD tool you're using, we will ingest the data and then correlate that data into metrics and analytics that then you can then visualize. Thank you, Carmen. All right, so just let me do this. All right. So again, thanks everybody for your time today. Really appreciate it. Feel free to join us on public Slack. So in the chat, I've noted the public Slack channel. If you want to learn more about SDO or software development optimization, please reach out to your sales contact. But you can also sign up for a free trial today, right? And the link is in the chat as well. Again, thank you everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Appreciate your time. Take care.